Hey guys, how's it going? Clover back again with another VOD review. Today in this one, we'll be checking out mostly Zarya. Some other tanks will be played, but mostly Zarya, at least for the beginning parts of this. And the topic of this VOD is about playing your life and how the effect of it will reduce the dependency you have on your teammates and allow yourself to become a bigger factor in these fights by just simply not dying. So that's what we'll talk about in more detail. Now, shout out to Sharky for submitting this VOD. Thank you so much for doing that. The in-game username that we're checking out, however, is going to be Bronze Bastion, as you can see in front of us. And the lobby slash match rank is going to be gold. So that'll give us a little bit of context into kind of the gameplay that we're watching here. Now, what you said in your notes here, Sharky, is that you want to figure out how to play against the enemy team comp. And definitely we'll do that, because that's very important to know about hero interactions and stuff. But I think importantly for you is you need to incorporate these fundamental first person shooter elements before we talk about hero interactions. That's more important. If you can do the basics of those, like using cover, most importantly, that's going to allow you to maintain a bigger presence in these fights and possibly like being more active, see these opportunities and capitalize off of them. It's just, it's everything for the most part if you can use the cover effectively, because your playstyle is a little bit reckless. And yeah, if you can curb those mistakes, incorporate those good habits, that's going to really skyrocket you in terms of SR, no matter what the enemy team comp you play against. All right, so that's most importantly. The hero interactions and stuff is going to be definitely necessary, and I mean, if you play this game long enough, you should know what each hero does generally. So yeah, if you have better fundamentals of your gameplay, that's going to be more important than the exact, like, to a T what you're supposed to do with these different heroes. So that should be your takeaway, and some other viewers' takeaways for this. All right, grab some water, and let's talk about team comps here. So for this one, I want to put into context why your team comp is vastly superior. And for the most part, it hinges on your support line versus the enemy's dive. Now, the enemy's dive, they're running Genji, they've got Diva, then they've got Winston, and then Zenyatta's Discord, which is going to help facilitate it with the damage it brings, or the potential damage. Anyways, you know what I mean. So the thing with dive is it kind of has this initial spike, right? So there's a period where they do nothing until they use all their cooldowns, because that's just naturally how dive works, right? So they're going to have all their cooldowns, and there's going to be this down spike and this lull period where they're doing nothing, and that's because they have to wait for the cooldowns to be active before they can go back again and dive, right? So this high spike is going to be a little bit scary, right? Winston's going to use Bubble, Diva, Defense Matrix, her boosters, and micro missiles, Genji's deflect and dash. And then yeah, all those resources that follow it. So there's going to be this high spike. Now, in order to really defend against this, you need to have a strong backline, and thank goodness that naturally your comp wants to stay close together, which is going to really enable your backliners to basically carry you. They should not, like, if they lose this, it's because of your supports type thing. Like your team, your Reinhardt wants to stay melee range. Your Doomfist, even though he's set up over here, still needs to come in and engage up close. Moira is also a up close healer. Zarya's high close healer or tank, and then you've got Symmetra who likes to be up close. So naturally your comp wants to stay huddled, which is going to allow your Misty Hands Moira, Biotic Orb Moira to have more impact with her AoE healing. Baptiste also with his AoE healing regenerative burst. And if things get a little bit feisty, you've got Immortality Field, which is going to really help absorb a lot of this incoming damage. And on top of that, you are Zarya, and as long as you use your bubbles defensively to absorb this incoming damage, this wave, that's going to really alleviate a lot of the healing pressure from your supports, but also maintain the health pool of whoever you bubble, so that they don't get blown up by whatever damage is incoming. So And as a bonus, you also get energy out of it. A lot of Zaryas use their bubbles aggressively to gain energy, when you could use them defensively, still gain that energy, but also protect your teammates. And I'm going to be foreshadowing a little bit, but that's kind of what happens in this first attack. Now, hopefully that established why your comp is going to be vastly superior than the enemy team comp. Now we got to look at the positional game. Temple of Anubis point A, this is the most important positioning. The reason being is that once you lose this, the enemies now have access to this area, of course, have access to this area, this area, this area, and if they want, they can go over to this area and try and attack any backliner that might sit back here. But the important thing is that now they have access to all these angles, which is going to eventually lead them to a positional win rather than just like, you know, win by outsmarting them. It's just they have better position. They will drain more resources from you guys, and that's kind of how this objective works. Okay, so the most important thing for your team is to take control of this spot. Make sure you hold that position. If the aggression gets a little too much and it's a little bit worrisome, your default retreat is going to be over here, using this as your cover. And it will also allow your supports to take this little cubby and also hold the staircase, which is on a lot of sight from a lot of other stuff, okay? And these positions are really important because they still have access to this core, important high ground, okay? Because you always want to make sure you hold that. Now, just to flesh out my thoughts, the only time you want to ever contest this is if there's like an entire enemy team, and I mean entire enemy team, like 5 players or more. So something like this. There might be one person over here. Well, you can just line of sight them, and you can just use this cover and try and take this fight on and act like a choke. Okay, and also in that regard, the Doomfist might spot this one lone enemy and also just dive him. So you've got ways of dealing with that solo DPS that likes to flank, or taking that off angle, okay? That's really realistically the only time you ever want to move to that position and hold that choke. Otherwise, you're just going to be standing here poking from the choke or poking from here, okay? Now let's see if you do any of those. Great use of bubbles so far. But it gets your sim killed. And it's a micro play. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this first round, so I want to get to it. But you have to be cognizant with how you use your bubbles. So your first bubble is fine because you're face tanking with it. You're using your bubble to absorb that damage and convert it to energy, making sure that your supports aren't using any important cooldowns to try and save you. Like, you're not putting your life at risk whatsoever. It's the second bubble that you put on your Doomfist here that is the issue, right? Their dive just started wrapping up. They had their bubble just popped, and they have no jump or anything. Diva just boosted in, so they're on like kind of fallback, ready to be in that lull until they get their cooldowns back online. Okay. So using this bubble on your Doomfist was more of an offensive bubble when you should be using your defensive bubble or just saving it, because there's no point in trying to use an offensive bubble to gain energy. And this is like a minor thing that translated into a kill on your sim here, but it's really important that I point this out because, again, you want to use your bubbles defensively so that your teammates live. If you use your bubbles to gain energy, that's going to mean your teammates are susceptible to a dive where your damage won't mean anything because you can't deal enough of it fast enough before the enemies can, and then eventually kill your teammates. All right. So this is being cognizant with your bubbles. Your Doomfist, if he feeds here, that's his fault. There's nothing you can do. And then, of course, this one solo Moira distracts all 4 of you. And 4 of you guys chase her. Now the Winston is leaping on in. And this is dive being dive, where they recognize, even though Winston doesn't have his bubble, so he can't do that like full engage with his bubble and his leap, He spots a lone enemy and he decides to dive without his bubble, which is considered a risk, but it's not a risk when you guys are all looking at this Moira. Your sim gets isolated, and just imagine if you had your ally bubble to protect her. I just want to clarify that your bubble on that Doomfist was not bad, that was good, but this is the better, smarter play that you would have to make in higher ranks. Otherwise, you get hard punished from it. And you lose positioning too. Okay, so you got Moira, and also their down monkey. And this is where we get into the actual meat of this, the thing I wanted to discuss. You're hiding in this corner now, and you kind of linger here for a bit. How you got to that moment was you playing just playing in exposed areas. So I'll just wait until this Winston's done. And I want you to look at your health pool here. Okay. So you kill the Winston. Great, cool. Do you see how much you're exposed right now? And what happens when you're exposed for that long is eventually you start just getting poked out by the Torp turret, by the Genji, by the Zenyatta, and you find yourself in a position where you need to retreat back to that spot right there. What you really needed to do is pick a corner, pick any piece of cover, whatever it is, whether it's this one or whether it's this one. If you know the status of the team fight, this one would be the most optimal, because then you have the access to the staircase, you push up with your bubbles, you try and isolate and kill the Zenyatta. You also push up with your Reinhardt, or is that your Doomfist? I don't know. You push up with, I think that's your Reinhardt. I don't know who that is. That's your Reinhardt. Okay. You push up with your Reinhardt here, and he'll become that like shield that you need so that you can deal your damage while from the safety. Okay. If you didn't know the context of the fight, this would also be a very good position because it's very good defensively. You've got this huge building here that will give you that cover, and it minimizes the amount of angles to whoever's looking down the barrel of this tunnel here, practically. But you doing this, and you're snaking here, and then you use your bubble, and you're like, oh, I'm low HP, I should probably get to cover. Now what you're doing is you're ineffective for that amount of time until your supports heal you up, or until you regain some of your shield HP, which regenerates naturally over time if you didn't know. So by picking the angle like this, you're reducing the amount of damage that you take or limiting limiting the damage you take only to the Torp turret or Torbjorn himself, right? Because Zenyatta was standing here, so his LOS is going to look something like this. And then Torbjorn, what should I do? No, I should probably stay red. Torbjorn had his turret, which sees all of this space, and then sees all of this. Maybe potentially seeing you in this little tight corner here, but at least you're minimizing the angles and only taking damage from the Torp turret instead of the Torp turret and Zenyatta. Okay? Covers has this type of effect. And this is where playing recklessly and not using cover effectively can snowball something so minor into a snowball where it's out of your control. So you taking all this damage means that you're definitely forced to retreat because you're low HP, like you are right now. And that means you're going to be in this very safe passive position, but you're not holding this key position or somewhere over here to really make your presence known, because you're reckless with your health. You didn't mitigate the damage as much as you did. And then you finally do it. Finally push up with your bubble. I like that. Use your bubble to push up. And then you chase this Moira. So back to this thing again, space control. You're chasing this Moira, you going up the staircase, going up here, took 10 seconds to do. And actually, this Moira fades away anyways. So what you did here actually meant nothing. You did absolutely nothing for 10 seconds, and you can check the clock on that one if you really wanted to. Literally, it did nothing. And the only times you would ever chase are when the fight is over. The fight isn't over. They have Winston, they have D.Va, they have Moira. They maintain presence on this key high ground. So the fight is not over. You need to try and close it out somehow, and chasing is not the right way to do it. You need to hold key position still and try and find these opportunities, because the opportunity, like this Moira, would actually present themselves if you were holding this position. You could start beaming down this Moira. You could try and attack this Torbjorn and actually get kills, which convert or allow your team to sway the fight and actually have a clean fight end. Whereas this fight has technically been going on since the start of the game, because you guys haven't maintained this presence and haven't fully killed everyone. You've kind of been lollygagging trying to chase this Moira, or you kind of get caught off by this one Moira and switch targets or something like that. But I think what's a key thing to understand as tank is, with a tank, you have 400 HP and you need to play with confidence. You have 400 HP. No DPS can do this because they're so exposed. They don't have these really powerful defensive abilities like bubble, like take a breather, like shields, like kinetic grasp. They don't have any of that. So a tank has that ability because how they're designed, obviously, but you use that to your advantage and you want to try and challenge everyone. That's literally what you want to do. You want to hold these positions and challenge people. If D.Va and Winston and Torbjorn and Genji, whatever, start to attack you while you're on this high ground, you just say, you know what, you could take it. You forced me off. I'm going to play safe over here. But the key thing is that you hold your ground, you challenge them, and then you kind of determine what follows after that. If you can win that duel, if you can't. But this position here allows you to now take these duels like this Moira. I bet this D.Va who gets low, you can now start to duel if you're on this high ground. So yeah, what could have been? Is that everything I want to say? I think so. Yeah, don't chase. The only tanks you chase with are D.Va and Wrecking Ball, who have mobility. Zarya does not have the mobility, therefore she cannot chase. Especially when the team fight isn't over. So slow down the game here and take a mental note of what's going on. I think you were in this position here. You killed Zen, and then you focused on the Moira and went up these stairs to try and chase her. Take a quick note of what's going on. Are your teammates still fighting? I think the Winston at this point was just coming in, or the Winston was peering his head here. So you need to just, yeah, take a mental note of that. Tunnel vision again. This is the time you actually get caught out and exposed. It's the same thing there. You got booted around by the monkeys, so eventually you landed at this position somewhere over there. And then from this position, you tunnel vision on the Torbjorn, use your bubble, and then you're like, oh crap, I gotta leave because there's molten lava stuff all over. And so you need to try and retreat, but you retreat over here. You could attempt to retreat back to cover over here, but I think even the safe play is by just recognizing, look left, right, take note of your surroundings, and move over into this position, because what could have been, Reinhardt hits a shatter, you're still alive, you can try and follow up on the Moira and the Genji who got stunned, and your Sim is still alive, you have a Sim TP, so what could have been is your team potentially holding or at least stalling for another 30 seconds or so, is now going to be a team fight loss. Alright, regrouping now. Your team's still trying to stall. What are you going to do? Zen down, but then he lost Doom and Lucio. I guess you think... Oh, wow. I guess you think the fight was winnable. Oh, no. Yeah, I think you know what went wrong. Blech, what went wrong here? Like, you take TP. I think maybe thinking that it's winnable. It's really not when you slow down the game, and especially for these moments where the fight is still going on. Point 8 hasn't been lost yet. You need to look at number one, your kill feed, to get that context of what's going on. Your doofus got Zen, so maybe that's what you saw, but you didn't see the 2 follow-up kills, which were your Doom dying and your Lucio dying. And that should give you that sign that I can't really take this fight. It's probably best I go defense. You could also take a look at the objective here and see if there was enough time for you to stagger even more. But you literally went here, the point was lost, realized that the Ryan was dying, so you tried to help him and then walked. You kind of camouflage yourself by walking right in front of the enemy team. They didn't see you until you stuck your body out, and then, yeah. So now you're down 2 tanks and a Moira. Let's see what's going to happen here. Oh. No! Oh, my soul. Oh, my poor soul. Where's my mouse? There it is. So, back to slowing down the game again. Let's wait until you respawn. So, you're coming out of spawn with Grav. What are you going to do with it? You had 10 seconds to think about it. You're now having like 5 extra seconds to think about it. Nope, you don't think whatsoever. You just yeet it right into the enemy team. On top of that, you're at 0 energy. They have both supports alive. And they shoot tanks. Wasted Grav. Did absolutely nothing. This is not desperation. Slow down the game. This is not desperation. They have this much capture progress before they actually cap. That's about 5 to 6 seconds. Something like that. You have respawners coming back. So the number one priority in this situation is to just play your life and touch point, but like hold cover, or maybe you just don't touch point at all and wait until the last second until some of your members come back from spawn, and then you can touch again, use their bubbles and cooldowns. But you're rushing this. You think this is desperation mode? It's not. You have plenty of time. Slow down the game here. What I would really like to see is when you come out of spawn here, that you look for these win conditions. So if you slow down the game, recognize, you know what, I have a little bit of time left. I don't need to do anything special. You need to look for kills when you're trying to defend on a snowball push, right? The key thing about 2 CP maps is that you need to find picks, and eventually your spawn advantage will overwhelm the opposing team more times than not, unless you have ultimates. But that's how you defend these pushes and stall long enough to win. So your Reinhardt gets that kill. That's 1 kill. That's one kill towards salvation, I suppose. So now you're looking for another kill. You throwing this Grav here does nothing. What I'd like to see is this Moira fades and now pops out over here. If you Grav this Moira, I would like that way more, because you recognize there's a potential win condition and you could try and kill that Moira. That is one play you could have made. I would have liked that. I mean, you can point out that they have... Oop, that's a bad circle. They have Transcendence, but at least you're making an effort and you're recognizing these win conditions that kind of pop out in front of your face. It works out anyways because they Transcendence it. So it's an ult for an ult. Good use of cover, playing your life, touching point. You don't need a touch point. Now, especially in this situation here, you're 200 HP, less than half. Use bubble. Use this bubble to maneuver back to cover. Oh, okay, holy crap, I didn't set that up. Whether that's over here, so use your bubble to try and snake your way back to this position. Here's also fine, or go back into this, whatever you call it. Yeah, behind the Pharaoh. That is what I would like to see, because if you realize that you have Doomfist, you have Symmetra, you have Lucio, your most important thing is that you live so that you can stall time even more, and you'll cycle back cooldowns again so that you can push out and have a better chance at, you know, trying to find a kill or something. This is kind of like a rush situation, which I prefer that you kind of just slow down the game. Like these moments where you're in these positions here, you have time to think about what you need to do while your abilities are coming back. Okay, well, you got Simwall. Can you try and focus on the target here? Again, trying to get kills. Oh, target priority, man. Okay, you're a high energy. Zarya does so much damage at 50 energy. I forget what I said it was. What is it? So base is 75 and 100% is 170. So what is the average of that? Let me get my calculator here quickly. So if I do 75 plus 170 and divide that by 2, that's not how that works. 170 plus 75 divided by 2. There we go. 122.5 is what you do at 50 energy. That's so freaking much. That's a lot. And that's why it's considered high energy, if you didn't know. Past 50%. So you're at 60. You do so much damage. You need to try and look for these kills. Try and focus target. Whether it's the Moira, who's 1 HP. Whether it's the Winston, that D.Va can't defense matrix. Or whether it's D.Va herself, because she can't defense matrix that your beam, right? But you're kind of just shooting out to no man's land, dealing damage, which is being mitigated by Moira's AoE healing. So you should be shooting D.Va or Monkey here, but you kind of shoot between the both of them. And that's simple tracking. Follow the Monkey as he jumps up. Unlucky that he has ultimate. Yeah, need to focus the target there. Okay. It's a brief period to think about what you need to do. No. Slow down the game, man. Right here, right here, right here. So you get to this position. Okay, Molten Core's coming out. You give it up because, you know, it's a risky situation. You need to go back to cover. You're less than half HP. What you can do is wait here for a little bit. Remember, slow down the game. You've got a little bit of time here. You don't need to touch right away. You are right next to the point, so it's not that far away from you. If you need to desperately touch point, you also need to wait for your bubble. Shield HP will also regenerate, if I haven't said that already. No rush. No rush. And then you rush out and then you die. This fight was so winnable. So many chances to win this one. And they finally close out. If you want to know why the red team didn't finish out early, or finish out way faster or sooner than that, was because they used all their ultimates for that initial push. Remember when you died from taking that TP, the Reinhardt died and your Moira died? They used all their ultimates, which means they didn't have other ultimates to close out and trying to take care of these 1-by-1 staggers. That's what happened. That's the only reason why you guys were given a chance. All right, let's fast forward here. Boom. Excuse me. So I'll tell you something here. With your bubbles, and this pretty much goes for every single tank there is, using your bubbles to maneuver to positions when you're on attack is how you win, or at least how you get past chokes. So with Zarya here, instead of just gaining energy, that's something you would do on defense because you already have position here. But because you're on offense, you need to gain positioning. So you need to use your bubble to maneuver to positions. Roadhog, he'll use his take a breather or vape to maneuver 2 positions. Reinhardt will use his shield to maneuver 2 positions. You get the idea. But yeah. So try and use your bubbles to rotate past chokes. So what you can do is use your bubble to rotate past chokes so you don't get obliterated by the Junkrat spam or whoever else, Roadhog. And then what you do from here is you look at your Reinhardt. Ideally, you look at your Reinhardt, bubble your Reinhardt so that he can hold the shield, he doesn't die, and allows the rest of your teammates to eventually cross the choke safely. That's what happens. Yeah. And then you guys get split off here. I don't know how to approach this one. Because you did use your bubble on your Reinhardt early. Yeah. That's just gold. Okay. Because the enemy Reinhardt pinned. Well, that's one way to gain space on this high ground here. Yeah, your gold Reinhardt will charge on through. The enemy gold Reinhardt is like, I need to go and punch him, so he charges, and all of a sudden you have this high ground. Good play. You totally read that. All right, now that you have position of this, what do you need to do? Well, maybe you can kill this Ana, but importantly, you want to establish positioning up here, and you kind of want your Doomfist or whatever, because you will kill that Reinhardt. There we go. You want your Doomfist to try and set up. And then once you got all your abilities back online, you basically just make a full-on push again, use your bubble to engage, and try and beat down these targets. Because remember, they're down, people. Like, their Ana's out of position, their Zen's overextending, so maybe you could try to kill him. But then once your Doomfist starts to set up and whatever, you eventually have those key positions. These key positions again, here, here, and your supports can be here so that you can start attacking. And there's just so many angles that the enemy team has to look those 3 directions. They split their attention. They're not getting as much value. Yada, yada, yada. You guys should win positionally. You can also, just a fun thing to do, you can go in these flower sacks, so you jump on them, rocket jump off of that, get on this umbrella, rocket jump up here, and you're back on high ground. If you ever want to retake it as Zarya. Coolio. So yeah, you just win by positional game because the enemy team just kind of gave it up. And then, just exactly like you're supposed to do, use your bubble to push up, absorbing damage, so they literally do nothing, protecting yourself, and then you just use your high energy to beat down targets. This should be it. As they funnel one by one. Nice. All right. Brief period of time where you can think about what you need to do. Your teammates don't have any ults, so you probably want to take this. Okay. You want to take this more passively here because you have no ultimates, you have no way to engage. They're not staggering themselves too bad, so yeah, they're going to come in here with a setup defense rather than in your situation. You lost both tanks, you lost your Moira, so they're freely able to walk on through, of course, with their ultimates. You have none of those engage tools, so you probably want to play this passively or try and rotate through Dark Room. So actually, let me get to that here. All right, so for Temple of Anubis point B here. Why is my pen acting weird? There we go. For point B, there's essentially only 2 ways you want to engage from. The first of which is engaging through here is fine for, okay, actually, let me just, okay, here we go. The best way to flank through or get past this choke is by taking this off angle. You will still be spanned by this area over here, but it's pretty awkward if you're on it to try and get line of sight of this one doorway you can barely see right now. But this is the doorway you want to be so that you cross through here. You go through Dark Room, and the effect of it is going to allow you to be in cover for pretty much the entire time. And then now you're right at the objective. This is your choke. You're not fighting through exposed sight lines from main. if I go back to main here, main has this long bridge area, this long alley, which all the enemies are going to be funneling all their attention over to there. Which means as your Reinhardt tries to cross choke with the shield up, he's taking on so much damage because there's no walls or cover for you guys to mitigate some of that damage. So that's why main is usually not an option or the best option for point A. It just kind of looks cool. That's what that basically does. The other flank route, or what you would call it, the only other way to cross choke is by going on this off angle here. And instead of going to this area, that's a no-go. Instead of going there, the best place is to go along this wall. And then that way you can contest any backliners that might be here, but also you're close to the point. You mitigate some of that damage because throughout this entire journey, you have this like pillar in the middle of the way, so you're not taking as much damage as you would from main. That's how you push up here. So yeah, play it slow here. Try and farm up some ultimates, see what happens. Doofus is getting pretty close to his ultimate. You're also getting pretty close to your ultimate. See what you're doing here. Lost Lucio. Alright, your Doom's going in. Try and push up here. Nice, I like it. Except for the fact, yeah. I guess your Reinhardt was close, but as Zarya, where did my cursor go? This is dumb. Jeez. All right, Zarya here. So yeah, the right idea. You want to push this as your Doom's aggressing. All of the opponents are kind of like wondering where the Doomfist is going to land with this meteor strike. You need to try and push. Yeah, start to push. But you need to do it with your Reinhardt in front, being the main tank, having that shield to protect yourself. That way you don't get caught out like you did here. I would like to see you using, like, moving cover to cover. Using this. Use this box here that will make it so that it's really hard for anyone to shoot you. And then as your Reinhardt pushes through, then you can use this pillar if you really wanted to and start flanking on that. Or you can keep pushing on through and you can actually stand on this ledge. So move cover to cover as much as you can in these choke situations. So you move cover, protect yourself. You're ahead of your Reinhardt, so you just be patient. Wait for your Reinhardt to be in front of you so you have line of sight of him so that you can bubble him when he needs to. And yeah, that would be better. All right. The enemy team closes out the fight. Coming back from spawn, what do you want to do here? You've got Grav coming up. You also got Wall coming up. You've got Shatter. You've got Coalescence. This is going to be a big ult fight. This is one that you can certainly take. See what you do here. Okay. You got Reinhardt, player advantage. Oh, unlucky. So whole hog just kind of stops you in your tracks. But you still have Grav and B. This is very much winnable. Yeah, important thing with Grav. Let's see what you do with it here. No. Yeah. You need to be very proactive with your ultimates here to try and give your team an advantage. Okay, so you get booped back by the whole hog here. What I'd like to see. Right here. If you could yeet this Grav, I'm like not even joking, this is a good play. If you can yeet this Grav, you would drag at least the Roadhog. And you can also drag in this Junkrat, potentially, if he walks into it. So that's one play you could have made. I think the Myro is also here. So you're getting pushed back here. I'll wait until you're in a fair distance. Okay, no, she dropped. Never mind. But you could have at least got Roadhog, and basically that means when you're being proactive with your ultimates, it means that the enemy team has to react to you, and you're going to find value initially, which is going to really, at the very least, panic the enemy team. You're going to find value because you get the Roadhog kill. So yeah, needed to be proactive with your ult here. So that was one play. I think this is more being creative. The other option that you could have done is Grav right here. If you Grav right here, the Roadhog has no vape, has no hook, so he's not a threat to you. Also low HP. You Grav him. You also potentially suck in the Ana, that you can kill the Ana, and then Sig will be a collateral in that instance where you can kill the Sigma, because Zarya is favored in that engagement there. So that's what you could have done, and at least that's a play that would have allowed you to win, because you're getting a 3-for-1 and you're trying to trade picks here. There's also a Moira coalescing in the back where you could grab her, and recognizing that Moira can't fade out of her coalescence, might be able to kill her. But you grabbing the Genji and not recognizing what picks are going which way, your team is losing. You are the only one currently on point here. You are the only one. Friend's gonna die. So what you also could have done is just save it, and just call it a fight over. And that way, if you just look at the enemy team, they have literally no ultimates. You have Grav and Beat Drop. You're set to go. But using on the Genji, finding no value. Alright. I think this is where you swap here too. Okay, so Wrecking Ball's pretty much the opposite of Zarya. Wrecking Ball, what he wants to do here is have and take all the attention away from his team, so that his team has more space to walk on through, walk in more confidently. Right, Wrecking Ball has the tools necessary to absorb all this aggression, use adaptive shields, and get out and live. Meanwhile, while the enemy team is looking at you, trying to kill you, which they can't, your Reinhardt isn't taking as much damage, and he's like, oh, I can like walk up here for free. And that's essentially the idea with Wrecking Ball. So what do you need to do here? You need to properly set up and engage. The reason why you want to set up is so that you have an engage where you don't just get caught out. We'll see it actually right here. You could bridge boop right here too. If you bridge boop, you're isolating those two guys away from the rest of the team. Maybe your team collapses on them, so that's one way you could disrupt them. But here, when you take this flank angle, your movement is so sloppy that it gives the Roadhog and the Genji enough time to figure out that you are here. You actually even shoot the Genji. You don't need to shoot the Genji. Your most important thing is to get this engage. That way, the enemy team looks at you, and then your teammates aren't getting all that attention and damage onto them. You want to absorb all the damage. That's how you main tank. So, yeah, sloppy movement, and then just shooting the first thing in front of you. Gotta recognize that you are a tank first and not a DPS in this situation. And then, yeah, sloppy movement. Roadhog takes ya. But, you know, I guess you did disrupt enough, because you still absorbed all the cooldowns and lived. But yeah, in that situation, you could also swing up here and try and get a cleaner engage. Because the purpose of the slam, I mean, it farms up all charge and all that sort of stuff, but the most important thing is that it lures out so many resources, whether it's cooldowns, like Roadhog's hook to try and stop you, or Ana's nade to try and heal herself, Moira's orb and fade. So that's what you want to do. You want to force out these cooldowns, give your team a resource advantage. But you doing the sloppy movement was so slow that your team took all that damage, and then by the time you engaged, it was mostly minimal, like your impact. More in a fade. All right. Oh, grab a med pack and healing out. Give some ult charge to your Ana. Nope. Now you can. Nope. Don't do it. No. I don't care what goes on here. When you see, even if it's a sleeping Sigma, even though there's a lot of enemies and you're like, man, my slam would get a lot of value. What they see is a hamster looking at them funny, and they don't like how you're looking at them. So they want to use every cooldown, all their bullets to try and kill you. And that's exactly what happened. By you being so exposed and making it so predictable that you're going to slam, it's really easy for these attackers or defenders, whatever, enemies, to just use all their aggression and attack you. Not only that, you didn't even look for your team to follow up on your engage. You just went in seeing an opportunity. You got to play a little bit patient here, slow down the game. You start shooting here, you're like, oh, that's an opportunity for me to slam. Quickly look, team around you, in this case, no, not really, they're not set up, so you probably just want to back out. And properly set up too, like you did on the flank angle, just with cleaner movement. Okay, here we go. Good that you know what rocket jumping does. You can face forward, and it's a little bit faster than looking behind and rocket jumping. What are you doing here? Dead off cooldown. Died as hamster, came from spawn, took the TP, died again. Did nothing in those 2 engages. So let me get you back into the team fight here. Here you are. Okay, so you want to take TP, okay? Take TP. What should you do? What you should do is kind of get a layout of what's going on around you. You look left, right, see what's going on. Literally look both ways before you cross. Try and get to cover, whether it's here. Maybe you want to try and push this Ana. You see that your Reinhardt's taking a lot of damage, so you bubble him. But you're not just going in like full warrior mode with a war cry like, ah! You're not doing that. That's very unsafe. And what happens is that you use bubble on your Reinhardt without giving yourself an idea of what's going on. You think that you need to use your bubble when you're still 268. You're not going to die in an instant. And then when both cooldowns are done, you have no way to defend yourself. And you literally TP'd here. One kind of, I don't know, you went just straight into it. Head down, started like trying to box people around and fight them. And then you die for it. Okay, your Ana is popping off. Got 3 kills there. And that's it. Died twice, made 0 impact, and before you can make another impact here, the fight was over. You're just coming back. What is wrong with your face? What the heck? Interesting. You were inactive for 1.5 minutes, and I could prove that. So 3 of 5 here. This is when you're playing Wrecking Ball. You take a decent amount of damage, so you want to go and regain health. Doing nothing, doing nothing, doing nothing. Alright, so you're full retreat mode. You're just grabbing health packs, okay? Fast forward a little bit. This is when you get hooked, right? You do this play where You try and slam the Sigma, get hooked, died. Okay, so useless from 3 of 5 to 37. Okay, this is where you take the TP. You die by the Sigma Flux because you overextend, mismanagement of bubbles, and improper, awareness, I guess, just by not using cover, not assessing what's going on. So you die to the Sigma. Useless from 3 of 5 to 2 of 2, so a full minute. And then your third life is when your team finally caps out. And here you are. So from 3 of 5 to 133, a minute and a half of you doing absolutely nothing. The only reason why you win here is because your teammates, your Ana, clutched out and got 3 kills. Okay, right here. Just watch the kill feed here. Alright, so you're slowly taking space, your tanks die, but it's still not over yet. You're trading picks. And then your Ana goes insane mode. Kills the enemy Ana. She must have played Ana paintball a lot. Kills the Moira. Nades the Genji, gets 3 kills. And that's how you guys just close up the fight. You're relying so much on your teammates to carry you in this one. And then, yeah, eventually they walk off point and you're able to win. Alright. Use cover, maintain... Like, using cover allows you to maintain your health pool, which allows you to maintain a bigger or a better... more presence in the fights. And therefore, you can find these opportunities and start carrying your teammates. Instead of them carrying you, because they just popped off. Alright. So let's fast forward here. So with Wrecking Ball now, it's pretty much the exact same idea as crushing the choke. For at least the rest of your teammates. As Wrecking Ball, though, you need to help your teammates cross the choke. The only way Wrecking Ball can do that is by disruption. So what are the 3 ways he can disrupt here? Well, for one, he can go through this alleyway thing, go through, there's like a window here, and you can hop down through, get to this position, wall jump up, and there's a position here where you can wait it out, and then go for this bridge boop, trying to force enemies off high ground and take control of this important position here. You can also go through this long route here where you set up on this position. There's a grapple spot here I like to do, or there's another grapple spot here, which allows you to swing into the enemy team bridge boop, maintain control, or get more control of this important high ground. Or what you opt to do is you do this bridge boop, try and knock people off. It's a little bit cheesy. Higher ranks, you get punished more, but it works for you, of course. The third option, or I guess second option, the second tactic, I guess, is to try and force point. You force point, the enemies are like, we have to go and make sure he doesn't get free capture progress, so some of them are going to come over here at the very least and trying to contest you. All you have to do is just roll back to safety. You can wall jump again, do this bridge boop if you really wanted to. You could also redo this whole entire play and try and contest the capture point. But the effect of it is that you're drawing attention, luring the attention of the enemies, and they're going to split the attention, maybe even draw some bodies over, and that way you basically, what's the effect? You're going to have some better positional advantage because not everyone's on this key position. It's only going to be a select handful of them. So that's what you should be doing here. You have 2 ways of trying to take control of that high ground. So here comes a bridge boot. Unlucky. No. And then punish for it. What I'm seeing a lot of is you only have one plan in mind. You don't have a fallback plan. You don't have other steps, other tricks in your bag, as you would say. You kind of, so your objective is like, I'm going to bridge boop, but you don't know the impact of it. You don't know what's your fallback plan. You just went for it. And then once it didn't work, you're like, I guess I'll shoot this Orisa because she's alone. Maybe I can kill her. Rule of thumb, you cannot kill anything, or you should not go and kill something that will take longer than 3 seconds to kill. So this Orisa, there's no way you're going to kill her with your machine guns within 3 seconds, especially when you're not using any of your cooldowns. It gives the team enough time to react to what's going on, heal the Orisa up, and definitely you cannot kill that Orisa. So what's the best plan here? The best plan is to go from this bridge boop. Didn't work out, so you probably touch point. Go do this. Why is my mouse weird? Go to here, roll back, and that leads to forcing point. And then you can reset up on this high ground. Try again for the bridge boop. That's what you needed to do here. But you died. That's huge. This is an overtime fight. You dying here means that you likely don't have another situation where, like, you don't have a great, your best fight is going to be the first fight because that's the only fight you can guarantee that your teammates are coming out of spawn at the same time and playing as a unit. Now that this is an overtime push, you only have 1 minute and 10 seconds left. This is going to put you in some dangerous territory where you probably won't have another chance to regroup and give yourself a fair shot. So you dying here means you don't have a chance to, you don't give yourself or your team a chance to take a fair fight and find a way to win. And so far, it hasn't been what the enemy team is running. It's been more of you getting caught out and punished by the enemy team. But there's ways that different tactics you could have used and strategies that no matter what the team comp was, you would have found success. It's so far been an individual problem rather than a team comp diff. Now you still have to Winston. I guess what I should explain though is maybe if you are playing Wrecking Ball here, what are you trying to do? So you're doing those strategies where you're trying to either force point or boot people off this high ground. Those are your two main objectives. The effect of which is it frees up space for your team to rotate through or to try and collapse onto these guys. And in which case, you don't really have a target priority because you're just going to slam this and try and deal as much damage as possible. Your best target priority is going to be the Ana or the Sombra, so you can try and force her away so that she doesn't hack anyone. That's probably your main play here. Or maybe try and punish the Winston after he's leapt in. Yeah. But yeah, they don't have a great comp. They're running poke dive and a little bit of, poke dive, and they're not great heroes at it either. It's just a really messed up synergy. There is no synergy. All right, so Winston. What should Winston do here? Well, he shouldn't be up here. That's exposing too much of him. Unless your idea is that you take damage, come back down here, and allow your Ana to farm ult charge. So that's one way you could do that. What you should be doing here as Winston is waiting for your team to take space. Then you jump on in, use your bubble. That will give that brief window where your team is able to cross choke or cross this choke or cross main, whatever it is. It buys your team time and you take all that attention away from them. So you leap on in, you use your bubble, and then you basically run for cover. It's all in one go. That, or you bubble here and you try and walk around to this left side and then leap on in with your bubble once it's come back online and try and attack the supports and deal that cleave damage. Using just dropping off that high ground as your way of retreating. Okay, somewhat. So just mathematically, you should not die to the Lucio. You do not need to use your bubble here. Okay, I don't know, dart, but slow down the game. Don't need to force anything. Your best play is to wait for your bubble here, or at least wait for your bubble until about 2 seconds or 1 second, where it's going to come up as soon as you land. But using it when you have 3 seconds, you're at 500 HP, now you're at 311, you're at 137, and now your bubble comes online. Kill the Ana. What could have been is you being at like 500, 400 HP, kill the Ana, maybe turn around, kill this Genji. What could have been? And that was it. That was actually the one time your team somewhat regrouped again. And then the rest of your team just staggers out and dies. I also think too, you should have stuck on ball, because that way you would have farmed ult, like your ultimate. That's more important than just swapping. Yeah. For these overtime pushes, when you have, like, you don't have your normal time, you don't have 3 minutes, you don't have multiple team fights, you need to farm up ultimates rather than trying to counterpick, because ultimates have more of a say than just trying to counterpick someone. Unless your pick is just absolute garbage and not going to find any value, like a Widow going into a dive type thing. Alright. Alrighty then, so looking at your comp here, let's fast forward a bit. So, rewind a tad so we can see the action.
Ready for battle.
What is your comp good at? Well, you're essentially like your first defense comp, right? With the Zarya, Moira, and Baptiste. Except that you have a worse backline and you have a slightly more susceptible hero to dive. So, So what that means is you're not going to be as confident in holding this position. And in which case, you probably are going to be forced back here, and in which case you want to hold this position. Doing this still probably default, like just, yeah, it's default at it as is. But sometimes it gets a little too overwhelming, and it's just because you have a Brig Lucio that's not going to be like a high sustain with Moira, with Baptiste, with Ana. You don't have any of that great sustain. So you might have to be forced off to take this just defensive positioning and lose high ground because of it. As for Sigma, what is he supposed to do? Well, so Sigma is just a poke hero, right? So he wants to just keep dealing damage. It's going to be hard because the Winston is going to make sure that Sigma can't shoot from range. And it's a very uncomfortable position for the Sigma player. Maybe with context, you probably should have stayed on Zarya, but I guess just to stay on track with it. Sigma is going to play exactly like what your Zarya did. Stick on this high ground. If you get forced off, you get forced off. That's just how it goes. You challenge them, but if it's too overwhelming, yeah, you're forced to back off or back to this area at the very least. But yeah, for the most part, you're just going to stick on this high ground, try and use your rock to knock someone off the high ground or deal that stun damage, and maybe try and follow up onto one of the tanks or one of the DPS trying to get a pick. So your rock is going to have a very pivotal, I guess, impact in this if you land it. So your rock is kind of all or nothing, because otherwise your kinetic grasp is not going to find as much value, because the Genji can still dash through it and you cannot absorb Winston's Tesla gun. Same as which your shield isn't going to find as much value, because the Winston can Tesla through it, the Genji can dash right through it. But yeah, pretty much play like Zarya, use everything defensively in reaction to what the enemies are doing. So you use your rock as soon as the Winston leaves, try and go inside of his bubble and try and knock him off or stun him, so that, yeah, they can't find as much follow-up. So instead of bubbles to defend, you have a rock that is going to knock someone off and maybe scare them to a point where they come off high ground. So here comes the dive. Right idea. You actually kill Winston because your Doomfist knocked him up high enough. That's great. You're holding this position. That's huge. Okay, now that you lost a break, it's very scary. You need to start looking for picks. Try and get the D.Va. You could have stuck on D.Va. Yeah, honestly, probably could have stuck on D.Va. She's that low on HP. You maybe try and go for her. Maybe. It's a maybe. You also probably could have recognized that it is a D.Va. And so when she did take that damage here, and you try to shoot her once, just hear her interactions, she's going to absorb your damage unless you have your rock, which you don't have it. So you probably didn't need to chase this far anyways. If you already chased this far, I would say continue on, but you didn't need to. Yeah, you shouldn't have chased initially. Nice rock on the Winston. Target priorities. Lucio's very hard to hit. Probably should shoot the Mercy. Nice connection onto the Torb. Doomfist is clutching out. Huge. There you go. Team fight 1 down. Oh, almost got the D.Va. Alright, here's that brief period where you can think about what you need to do next. You got Flux very soon, so you need a poke for that. You got Sound Barrier, which is going to be great to defend against this dive. You also got Doomfist Ultimate, so be ready for him to be super aggressive. And Earthshatter is coming online. I don't know when, but it might be coming online soon. Yeah, keep poking. I like this. Challenge them. Hold this key position. Challenge them. Make them come to you. If they drop all their cooldowns to try and kill you and force you off, fine. You just concede. You fall back. You take positioning, safer positioning, and you regroup from there. Great. Exactly what you're supposed to do. Okay, the fight is getting a little bit scary. Actually, your Doomfist got the Mercy. Maybe the fight isn't over. They're using ultimates. Can you try and use your Flux here? That'd be really nice. Just try and close up the fight. Winston in the back. Maybe you can flex him. No, you can definitely flex this. Flex it. Flex it. So with ultimates, kind of how the general rule of thumb goes is you want to use your ultimates proactively to dictate the tempo and sway the fight into your favor. So as they're using ultimates, you probably need to answer with your own ultimates. Okay? Or you need to use your ultimates to solidify an advantage, a player advantage especially. So when there's those 4 enemies here, the D.Va, I believe Lucio, Genji, I don't exactly remember who's here, but those 4 enemies here, you definitely could have used that to get 2 picks that would have set your team at a player advantage, like distinct player advantage, maybe kill the rest of the staggers, and then your team, when you finally close out the fight, has a chance to breathe. But now, because you're so passive with your ultimates, like nothing's happening. And then you flex this guy. Good try. But he does live, unfortunately. Unlucky. But you see, if you fluxed here, you would never have gotten, like, the Genji would never have the opportunity to do his blade anyways. So I see what you're doing here. You're trying to counter the Genji blade, but you should have actually closed out the fight, recognizing that it's like 150 at that time. Close out that fight, allows your team to reset up, regroup, collect their thoughts, instead of having this like super tense situation like you are right now. You'd even kill the Genji too, which is really unfortunate. Okay, hold that position. So this is exactly like we talked about with the Moira. You need to hold this position. The fight technically isn't over. The enemy team is staging, which means they're slowly creeping in. So you going up here means you're inactive, allowing the enemy team to take space. Wait, did that rock go through people? Weird. Okay, so the Torbjorn slow down the game is what I've gathered from this, because I think you reacted to the Torbjorn being on point and you're like, I need a touch point. Slow down the game. Realize you have this much time. You have a decent amount of time. You could also look at the one thing, which gives you that indicator that there's only one player on there, so it's going to take even longer. So there's no rush here. Finish up the fight here. Help your teammates. You could also just stay on high ground and poke down the Torbjorn. If it gets close, then you can touch. But you don't need to full on like commit to this Torbjorn. Okay? Yeah, because you have your Brig up here, you have your Lucio, you have your Reinhardt battling out. You just took out, with context, like just slowing down the game, you would have looked at the kill feed here. Lucio's dead. Their Mercy's dead. Push this. You have a distinct player advantage. I think Brig dies here. Yeah. But now... So close. But now your team just got so split. Good finish on the D.Va. So it could have been a way cleaner fight, and your Reinhardt could have still been alive. Who knows if your Brig would have lived, but you still would have had an impact. You would have killed these guys way sooner. And I think the important thing is that your Reinhardt would be alive, which is so important, so vital that he stays alive. Because, I mean, he's a tank after all. He has the HP pool and the defensive resources to hold space. But now that we're in this downtime, this is your first like full-on closed fight. It's time to reposition, reset up on these high grounds here. But kind of just waddle around here. Need to set up on the high ground. Don't be so scared. Slow down the game, right? Like, the game is already slow enough. You have this huge window where you can think about what you need to do. You look right. Okay, my Reinhardt's coming back. My supports are coming on back. They have a SimTP, so your guys are respawning quite quickly and returning to the fight quite quickly. So, again, use your large HP pool. You're not at risk by any means. If they do challenge you, you need to back away. But you're not at risk by holding this position, let alone this position. And at least you can kind of figure out what you need to do, what hero picks are going to be made. Like if you press tab, you realize that they have a Pharah now and they have a Roadhog now. Looking at your own team ultimates, you have Doomfist coming up online soon, and you have Wall. So this is a very winnable fight. This is last fight too. But you playing in this super passive position meant that you kind of didn't know you couldn't give yourself an opportunity to gain this information and make a plan. And now the Pharah surprised you, and you're getting caught out. You're looking at this Winston. History repeats itself. You get too exposed and you die. How winnable this fight could have been. So winnable. So many chances to win. And a lot of it does just come down to positional. Where a lot of the times you're taking very exposed angles, or you're playing very recklessly, where you're exposed to all these enemy sightlines. Like you're playing here, the Zen sees you, the Torb turret, the Torb himself. At one point, when you're a Zarya and you're looking over here, you have the Torb turret the Torb turret, the Zen, the Torb himself. You got Baby D.Va. Then there's also Monkey and Genji over here, and you just walked in exposed sightlines and eventually succumbed. So reckless or ineffective use of cover, you're not using it very well. The second thing is you're making poor judgments because you're not taking the time to think about what you need to do and recognizing what's the state of the fight. So slowing down the game is going to be kind of hard to do because, I mean, it's an awareness thing. And that's something that I'll bring up, which is at least we'll put in your mind. but you need to write on a piece of paper to constantly remind yourself to like look at the kill feed. Take like slow down the game, and like in between rounds, matches, deaths, any way you can, think about what you could have done differently, what you could have done better. Because in this situation here, do I have it? No, it's something over here, right? Like you're in so exposed, such exposed areas. Luckily there's a wall here, so you're actually fine. It's when the multi-core comes on through. Here we go. So when it gets in these moments, you have so much time. Like it doesn't seem like that. Overwatch is a very chaotic game, but you do have so much time to kind of just regroup, think about what you need to do. And you're like, okay, bubble in 3. I'm low HP, so maybe I just sit here for a little bit so that I can regain some shield HP. But you don't need to force anything because, again, time. You have a bunch of time. So that's going to be a key. Those are going to be my 2 key takeaways from this VOD here. So hope you guys enjoyed. Learned something. If you want to submit VODs for me to review in the future, you could do so by checking out my Discord. Link down in the description, and there will be a place where you can send all your information, your replay code, and all that sort of stuff for some free coaching. And yeah, again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you when I see ya. Peace out.